Perfect. All right, thanks, Zachary. Welcome, everyone, to our first Advancing Virginia Main Street Board Forum of 2025. We're so glad to see you here. Next slide, please. These are the meeting controls for anyone unfamiliar with Microsoft Teams. Please note that this session is being recorded and use the chat or raise hand feature to ask any questions. Please mute yourself unless you intend to speak so we can keep the audio clear. Next slide, please. So these board forums are focused on unifying our network of nonprofit leaders and boosting Main Street efficacy in communities, and is focused really just for our board members to get a chance to communicate and talk together. For the agenda today, we'll be doing a quick warm-up to get to know who's here, announcements on upcoming trainings and grant opportunities, and Courtney Maley, Virginia Main Street Program Manager, will walk us through the statewide Placer AI report for advancing Virginia Main Street communities. So we're going to do a quick warm up here, a quick welcome and warm up. So we have some very exciting news. Kelvin Whitehurst has officially joined us as the program administrator for the Central Shenandoah region. If Ellie used to be your PA, you'll now be working with Kelvin. Kelvin, would you like to give a quick introduction?
Gladly. Good morning, everybody. My name is Calvin Whitehurst. I am formerly with Downtown Lynchburg Association. I worked as the business development coordinator for 2.5 years, and I am so happy to be working for the Central and Shenandoah region. So many of the faces here are quite familiar. So I feel like I did not go incredibly far from home, but glad to be representing all of you and helping you out moving forward.
Thanks, Kelvin. I hope you all join us in welcoming Kelvin to the team. We're very excited.
Jazz funk pioneer Roy Ayers has died.
Okay. Next slide, please. So we're going to do a quick roll call. Please put into the chat what community you're joining from and one project or initiative that your Main Street program is tackling in 2025. What do you have going on this year? Or if you are very excited, you can take yourself off mute and tell us that way as well. Okay, we have Emily from downtown Farmville. They will be applying for a DIG, a downtown investment grant. Very exciting. We have Lisa Fage from Onancock Main Street, and they are working on business retention and recruitment. Excellent. We have Bill Strom from Cape Charles Main Street. Let's see. And they're bringing shade to Strawberry Street Plaza. That'll be great for summer. Cindy Holdren from Onancock. Also, we've got additional murals and another DIG application. We love to see all the murals. Matt Carson from Warrenton, improving their marketing, imagery, and video. That's great. Harrison, Virginia, a board member, and looking forward to improving their wayfinding this year. We also have Jen Sadikoff, board president of Harrisonburg Downtown Renaissance, and they are looking forward to many projects, including breaking grounds on a new downtown park, a new green space. Afton Griffin, Old Town Covington, and they are working on completing the alley gallery. Lots of alleyway improvements. Nate Thomas from Tazewell Today, and they are excited to implement their small area planning grant this year. A few other communities also got that grant. We have Bart from Fredericksburg, and they are adding staff and fundraising. That's very exciting. We have Melissa Black from Harrisonburg as well, and they are very excited for their wayfinding project and new green space. James Ford from Downtown Lynchburg Association, working on tackling some blighted spots with new murals, filling storefronts, and a handful of new events this summer. We also have Jessica from Stanton, new hiring and marketing, always great. Jackie Wood from Luray, working on new billboards, their small area planning grant as well, and adding more new businesses. Okay, we got Kelly from Downtown Blackstone working on their dig and also their SMARP again with their great new executive director. That's exciting. Antonia Miller from Ashland, they're creating a junior board with local college students. That's a very exciting project as well. Rebecca from Lexington, they're rehabilitating their courthouse grounds. We have the president from Clarksville here. We got a lot of people here, y'all. Hilton Village, lots of great work, including improving their website, some more dig projects, their SMARTs and more. Buena Vista, economic development, and a grant application. That's awesome. Valley Glen, Blackstone, 2 weeks. Congrats on 2 weeks. You and Kelvin are in the same boat there. South Boston still working on their hotel and alleyway. Some more SMARPs from Hilton Village and their farmers market. That's very popular. And we got Gloucester doing a dig application for a downtown master plan. That's exciting. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing all of that. We are so excited to see all the cool stuff that you guys have going on and the potential grant applications. To stay on track, I think we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So we're going to do some quick announcements that we have coming up. Virginia Main Street has multiple training opportunities that are upcoming. The National Main Street Conference will be next month in Philadelphia. RevUps in May will be a detailed day-long training on, guess what? Main Street Board roles and responsibilities. Please encourage your fellow board members to attend this training. We also have 2 more board forums this year that we hope to see you at in June and October. And we have a new optional training exclusively for new executive directors that have been in their role for 2 years or less. This is a chance for them to brainstorm and get advice. If you have a new director, you may want to encourage them to check out this training. And I see we have a hand raised. Eric, would you like to ask a question? I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I was having technical difficulties. I was in but couldn't access the chat and couldn't raise my hand or do anything, so I'm on my phone now. I'm from Colonial Beach. I don't know if we're done doing I logged off and now I'm on my phone. I don't know if you finished introducing each other or ourselves.
That's okay. Go ahead. Tell us what you got going on.
Yeah, so as I said, I'm the president of the Colonial Beach Main Street program, and we have a lot going on. We're also implementing our SMART grant. We also have just rented new office space over the past couple of days, so we're going to be moving into that. We are doing a mural project. We are doing this year. We are launching a light up the night month of December winter light festival in Colonial Beach. We are what else are we doing? We are doing one of those cartoony sort of maps that you see in tourist destinations. So anyway, we have a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. You guys do have a lot going on. We love to hear it. Okay, I think we covered this slide. Next slide, please, Zachary. So we also, as some of you already know and are planning to apply, have grant opportunities that are open. Advancing Virginia Main Street Communities have access to 2 grants, the Downtown Investment Grant and the Financial Feasibility Grant. The DIG grant is for unique one-time projects that measurably, creatively, and sustainably advance the organization's goals and strategies. That can be up to $75,000. Please note that we have new match requirements for this grant as opposed to previous years. So it scales up depending on how much money you're requesting. And applications for that grant close April 25th. The financial feasibility grant addresses significant white elephant buildings or structures and identify the highest and best use of such properties. This can go up to $25,000 with no match requirement, and this is a rolling application. Applications open on April 28th, and priority is given to our advancing community. So if you are interested in that, I recommend applying for it sooner than later. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Courtney Maley to tell us about some exciting data that we've got going on.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure.
I don't know if it's appropriate to ask a question after each one of these little segments or whether I should hold them until the end, but I do
Go
have a
ahead.
question about the grant. So we have some, like, as I mentioned, we're doing this light up the town winter festival thing, which has a bunch of different components to it. So my question is, can you add a bunch of components together for these grants, or does it have to be one specific, unique kind of activity?
So definitely talk with Kyle. He'll help you flesh your idea out further, but one idea can have multiple components as long as they are all working together towards the same goal. That's sort of
Thank
it in
you.
a nutshell. Okay, next slide, please. So as you may know, every year Virginia Main Street collects organizational information and economic development statistics from advancing Virginia Main Street communities. I wanted to share some key results from the data haul that you gave to us this year and focus specifically on two questions that we've been getting a lot in the past year. So first, we're going to talk about sources of funding for local programs, and then next we'll cover some results from the staff salary survey. So for local program revenue sources, you may notice that local government, so city or town, depending on what your municipality is, and we're not saying this is ideal, but this is the way it is. So 80% of funding on average is coming from either the city or town. Unrestricted grants, so grant funding, represents about 30% of the revenue coming into Main Street organizations. Fundraising is a close third at 29%. And we were surprised, but happily to see counties participating. So your city and town may provide funding, but then the surrounding county, sometimes they are also willing to put some funding into the program. And that happens about 16% of the time, or 16% of the budget. And then other is just kind of the catch-all. That's 15%. And booster or investor campaigns, some people call this a membership program, but since you're all 501c3s, you don't really have membership per se. It's more like you're getting the sticker to put in the window or something like that. And then assessment districts. So special assessment districts are one of the tools that Virginia enables local governments to use to raise revenue for Main Street programs. And we currently have 3 communities that are using assessment districts: Winchester, Stanton, and Marion. And then contributions. So that could be very similar to the booster or investor campaign. And if we combine those together, it might rank a little bit higher on the scale. But I just think this is very useful because we get questions a lot about where are other people getting their money from? And now you know. So how does this fit into your program's norms? Does anybody have any thoughts or questions about what they see here? You don't have to have an immediate answer. Okay, great. David Feinauer. Let me.
I'm not sure I fully understand your numbers. You know, if we're saying 86% of our funding is coming from the city and town, And then are we saying that the other 14% is coming from all the other things, but then those other percentages also don't add up to 100 or a number that makes sense to me?
Okay, so ignore the percentages and look at the average numbers, and then I'm gonna have a really strict talking to with myself about the way that I did the math on that.
Okay.
So we'll have an updated table before the presentation goes back out to you guys after this. So,
Because when I look at the numbers, those also don't add up to what I see on the total on the right. So
well, and keep in mind, these are averages. So it's not
okay.
necessary, it's
Okay. So
averaging
this
all
is
the
the
data
average of
above.
every Main Street organization.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay.
Correct. So the average budget is $287. The average contribution from local government is 248, but it doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
add up in that way.
Right. Is there a way to get this not about averages and maybe medians for each of the categories? Because some of
Totally.
your large towns are going to really skew the average.
Yes, and we can even give you like the actual data for each community, but to put a data table with 37 entries onto this little slide, the letters were too tiny for my old
Oh,
eyes.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. I wouldn't, yeah, but
yeah,
maybe if by category and then knowing kind of the midpoint might be more
right,
helpful than the average.
right. Okay, we can definitely share that information with you. Any other questions? Can we have these numbers by community? Yes. So everybody, because you're a 501c3 and you file taxes through the 990, this is considered public information, and we're happy to share a follow-up table along with the slides and the recording after today. And while Kyle says the typical contribution is about 30%, sometimes it's more than that, as we can see. So I think 30% is maybe a goal, but isn't always what we're seeing in reality right now. More programs seem to be dependent on local government funding at this time. But I hope I'm wrong, because clearly I was wrong on the little quick and dirty stats. All right, let's move on to the salary survey. So for salary survey, and I did check on this one, the medians and the averages are very close together. They're not that far apart. So for full-time executive directors, the average salary is $69,426, and the median is $70,000. So very similar. Then for the programs that have part-time executive directors, the average salary is $26,427. The average tenure, so the average length of time that executive directors are in their position as of December 31st was 5.7 years. And the most common form of benefits that are offered to executive directors are paid vacation leave, paid sick leave, and mileage. And there are other benefits that are offered, and we can get a list of those things for you if you're interested. I also thought it was interesting to note that 62% of programs have support staff, and the support staff on average have a salary of $48,000, and the weekly hours that they work is just over 20 hours a week. And the most common roles that those support staff have are in marketing, events, and administrative support. And there is a question. What is your question?
Yeah, so this is Pat. I'm Charles coming in from Clarksville. Just to go back to the part-time, what is
Yes.
that based on number of hours that is being considered as part-time?
So I'm trying to remember the program guidelines. I believe 25 hours is the minimum. Yeah,
Okay,
25
thank you.
hours is the minimum.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, then we'll go ahead and move on to one last data set. And this was not part of the annual data bonanza, This is a data analysis that we commissioned with Placer AI. So if you have a cell phone next to you, a couple of people have called in on your cell phones, that's where this data comes from. So it's location tracker data from the different apps that you load onto your phone, and Placer uses that information. It is very, I'm not going to say spooky, but it's a very advanced AI information, and it can tell the difference between a resident and a visitor. And so it has tracked visitors in and out of Virginia Main Street's district over the past year, so 2024. And the total population of the 37 communities that are at the advancing level totals about 500,000 people. So those 500,000 people have hosted more than 9 million unique visitors in the past year. And those visitors visited more than 44 million times. So it's a tremendous impact from visitors, and you guys should feel really proud of that. And the fact that this is steady improvement over time. So we have seen, and I guess I should go to the next slide because there's a handy little graph about that, but you'll see that there's been steady growth since the pandemic. And first 6.5%, there was that big rush, but then there was an increase again, about 3%. And then from 23 to 24, just about a 1% increase. But if you're always improving by 1% over and over and over again, that ultimately is still a very significant impact. And I want to give a little shout out here to Ashland. Ashland won the prize for 2024. They had a growth increase of 30% in visitation. So kudos to Ashland. And we want to know what the heck you're doing to to get that kind of a result, because that's amazing.
I can tell you right now that
Okay.
we have a really good person doing our marketing, and we have very strong community support and town support in regards to marketing. And we're getting very close to having a unified front as far as what we market. It's a collective message. And Ashland itself is just a very inviting town. So we have a large MSA that's right down the street as well. So we have a good audience or crowd to draw from. And we make sure that our programming is aligned with some of the things that are, we make sure our programming is all inclusive. So train day, light up the tracks, things like that. You could bring the whole family. And nowadays, the whole family has cell phones. So some of that information is probably duplicative there, but just an all around effort, I would,
Great.
in my opinion.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate your input there to give some insights on what has been winning and working for Ashland. For seasonal trends, I don't think anyone is surprised to hear that January is the slowest month, but I honestly was a little bit surprised to see August as being the busiest month, because we have a lot of communities that have strong spring and strong fall in the mountains, but summer still won the day overall. Weekend traffic is dominating in all of our communities, and I think that's pretty consistent across the board. Next slide. And then a little bit of demographic information about who's visiting our main streets. Right now, about 60% of visitors are white versus 66 are white versus 60 statewide. 33% have a bachelor's degree or higher versus 40% statewide. And median household income is a little bit lower than the state as a whole. So 69,000 versus 87,000 statewide. And what this means for local downtowns is that spending power may be slightly lower than the state average. So when you are working on targeted promotions, think about affordable experiences that can attract a wider audience, and also opportunities to draw in higher income demographics. So there's an untapped market there within the state. So also be thinking about what kind of experiences would attract that untapped market. And then education-based marketing could be effective when trying to reach younger and college-educated visitors. So next slide, please. Visit duration and peak hours. I just find this stuff kind of interesting. So 48% of visitors were there on short trips, less than an hour. So like going to the dentist or running a quick errand. 17% stay for more than 2.5 hours. And I would think of those as like the big events where you are trying to get people to stay for a long time for a more extended experience. But on average, the visit duration was just under 2 hours. And that is, that's pretty much how long I spend when I go out to do my shopping for the day. So just kind of think about how that may or may not affect the way that you plan your business promotions in particular. So when are your visitors most active? The peak times are lunchtime and dinner time. So food away from home is a major driver of foot traffic in the day-to-day. How can your Main Street program build on this trend? Think about that amongst yourselves right now. Like, does anybody have an idea about how you could build on the food away from home trend? Any hands raised? Need to think about it a little bit longer. Well, we won't put you on the spot, but expect to talk about it with your PA at your next check-in visit. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thanks. So how can you use this data? And there actually is a full report, which we will send out at the end of this webinar that I think it's like 6 pages long. And the very last page breaks out visitation, just growth percentages. It doesn't have this level of detail for each community, but you can see where your community falls in that continuum. Yes, Coach, you had a question?
I was just wondering, since we did have such cool numbers, I'd love to be able to share that with our board and community.
Absolutely.
So will that information will be in that
Yes.
packet? Okay,
Yeah, it'll be on the
awesome.
last
Thanks.
page.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So how can you use this information? You can use it for business development and planning. I know sometimes it can be hard to convince businesses to conform to a certain set of hours, but if you have this kind of information, you can really relate what the peak visiting days and times are, seasonality, and even visitor characteristics to help educate business owners about who their customers are or could be and what business hours are optimal. So how could they better tailor their offerings to potential untapped visitor markets? And paired with other trade area data, you might be able to better target business recruitment, retention, and expansion efforts, such as by pairing visitors' places of origin. And everyone on this call should have a current market analysis. We'll call them a transformation strategy service, but we tried to make sure that everybody had that service within the past 5 years. So everyone should have something current post-pandemic. And this information is related to that as well. So marketing and promotion is another obvious use for this data. Visitor data enables targeted advertising campaigns, either in social media or other types of media, to areas where most visitors are likely to come from, or by revealing which geographic areas have the most potential to send more visitors to the community. In one of the transformation strategy documents, we found out that the number 2 place of origin for St. Paul's visitor market is Orlando, Florida. Well, no one saw that coming, but now we have a completely different media market that they might want to reach out to in the future. Also fundraising and sponsorships. So being able to utilize total and event-specific visitor data You guys can create compelling donor and sponsorship packages that highlight exposure to visitors and the impact of the program beyond the immediate district boundaries. So visitor data may be used to support proposals for grant funding and customize donor appeals. Any other thoughts or questions about how you can use the data? If not, I'm going to turn it over to Amy, and she's going to close you guys out.
Thanks, Courtney. And we are going to dig a little deeper here. Considering this data, how can you all creatively showcase your program's success to inspire and engage your community? Or if you're already plugged into all of this great data, how are you using it to creatively showcase your program's success? So any ideas for how to do it, or if you're already doing something that you can share with the group?
I know that specifically. Oh, I didn't raise my hand. Is that?
That's all right.
I'll
Go ahead.
raise my hand. I know we have to do presentations for our budget requests here in the next few weeks. So having that data to kind of show the growth in visitation and the push towards tourism is going to help us make a case for the work that we do. But also in our marketing, being able to show the number of folks that are coming to the town, I think that's going to help us change the perception of people being willing to visit Ashland, or at least kind of give us a horn or two, so to speak, to our local community and residents, just so they can see that we're getting getting the message out and that it's working, and that Ashland is a place that people want to visit. So definitely going in our annual report as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great, Antonio. Yeah, the quantitative numbers can be really helpful for building your case for support. Yes, Jackie.
So when I'm talking with prospective business owners or people that are looking to do business on our main street, I use this information to show them the impact of what the impact is in the community. I also use it when I'm presenting to our town council, and I share that information with them so they're aware of what progress that we're making with the Luray Downtown Initiative.
That's great. That's a great way to show the impact of your program. Let's see, anyone else? I know Manassas has been cooking something up with their data. Do we have anyone from Manassas on the call that can share? No. Anyone else? Any ideas for how you could use this data? Any questions about it?
Cape Charles produces a really nice annual report. Oh, was that Bill? Go on.
This is Bart with Fredericksburg. We have placer data now, and we have used it with our business owners to explain the importance of staying open later.
Yeah,
that's a constant battle, but we feel it's very important. And if we can show the numbers, we hope to get more and more on board. And to echo the others, I just spoke with our city manager and used some of that to show the impact of the events that we do, and how it puts feet on the street and just adds to the city's income, and how their money is well spent with us. So we use it a lot.
That's great. And Fredericksburg has its own placer subscription?
Yes, we do.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Yes, Bill.
Thanks for the nudge there, Kyle. But anyway, Cape Charles has its own subscription with Placer AI. We share it with our citizens for Central Park because in the summertime they have a free concert in the park every Saturday. So we do share this information with our businesses through we have a Main Street Connect, where we meet with all our businesses once a month in the shoulder seasons. And just like was said from Fredericksburg, it gives them an idea of when to stay open. We try to push staying open later at night. So we have one business that does it all the time, and have gotten great results. So thank you.
That's great. Yeah, sounds like very useful for business and trying to get their hours to match those visitations and getting that case for support with showing your numbers and your impact. I know St. Paul tomorrow also plans to use their placer report to apply for some tourism grants for events, which is another use for this. Do we have any other ideas, any questions before we move on? We got one in the chat. How orgs would describe their relationships with their towns: responsive, positive, easy to work with, challenges, etc. Maybe an idea for a poll from organization managers. So we could do a poll for that. I don't think we have that many executive directors on the call today. I think it's mostly board members, but that's something we can definitely look at.
Yeah, I
And
think
Melissa,
we can
go ahead.
definitely have something pulled together for the next board forum, so don't miss it. We'll have an answer for you.
And Melissa in the chat said it could be used for interactive storytelling and data visualization, maybe an impact map. That's a cool idea. And Bill, you got something else to add?
We do use the data. Kyle mentioned it. We use it for an annual report that we give to all our residents every year. We send out a packet to every resident in the town with our annual report. Plus, we use the data, and it's very, very useful and beneficial to the town council twice a year.
That's excellent. Yeah, very useful for that annual report and showing some numbers there. Yes, Eric. You're muted.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Well, this is an idea that just popped into my head. We probably, like many towns, have some people who are sort of just knee-jerk opposed to this kind of to Main Street. They don't like to see progress and so forth. And some of that many of them are the loudest on social media. But in general, the town is very supportive. I mean, the citizens are very supportive of moving forward. But one of the things that I would like to do in more this year is to do like a town hall sort of thing, with inviting all of the town residents to hear about all the benefits of downtown Florida Beach and Main Street in general. And it seems like these statistics would be perfect for that.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a great idea. All right, anyone else? Any final thoughts? Questions? Eurekas?
Thank you guys for the information and the support. I think that's important to say, and I'm looking forward to using some of this information. So that's it for me.
Great, thanks, Antonio. Yeah, we definitely want this to be a useful report for you guys, and it sounds like it will, because you guys came up with some great ideas. Okay, I think we are ready to move on to the next slide, please. And that comes to the end of our webinar today. Again, if you don't know who your program administrator is, I'm Amy. I cover the Southwest. Blair is the northern area. Kyle Meyer covers the eastern portion. Zachary is our south side guy. And Kelvin, our newest team member, again, is central Shenandoah area of Virginia. And please feel free to reach out to us whenever you feel like you need to. We are always happy to talk to you guys. And with that, we're going to end unless you guys have any questions, want to discuss anything further. But at this point, you are free to go.
Amy, Jessica had a question about registration for the spring rev up. So I'm just going to drop that link in the chat really quick.
Yes.
So
yeah, and Rev Up registration is open, so you can go ahead and book that now.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
All the things that are happening nationally with with the federal government and budget cuts and so forth. Is that going to impact Virginia Main Street program?
So not at this time. At this time, so National Main Street America is an independent nonprofit, and it is not impacted by federal funds. The federal funds that would potentially impact Virginia Main Street are the fact that we're currently staffed in part through ARPA funds, which by design will expire at the end of 2026. So that's just something to keep in mind. But we are also working on resource development and identifying other partners so that we can continue to keep the service level high for Virginia.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Final thoughts? Okay, thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it. We will definitely send out this information and report afterwards, as well as the presentation. So keep an eye on your email for that. And we will see you next time in June for our next Board Huddle.